Spring came again. The flowers were everywhere. People smiled in the streets. But I did not feel happy. My phone buzzed in my hand. It was my mom. "I found a very beautiful place," she wrote. "There are many flowers. Come home this weekend." I looked at the message. I did not reply. Outside my office window, I saw a small tree. Pink flowers covered the branches. Some petals fell with the wind. They moved slowly in the air. My coworker, Anna, stood next to me. "Wow, spring is here," she said. "Do you like flowers?" I nodded. "They are nice," I said. "Are you going anywhere this weekend?" she asked. I paused. I thought about my mum's message again. "No," I said. "I am busy." Anna smiled. "You always say that," she said. "You should go out. Spring does not stay long." I gave a small smile, but I did not answer. My phone buzzed again. Another message from my mum. "I can cook your favorite food," she wrote, "and we can go together." I read it slowly. Every word felt simple, but my chest felt heavy. I opened the chat box. I typed, "I am busy." Then I stopped. I looked at the words. I did not send them. I remembered something. Not a long time ago. Just a few months back. It was a Sunday. I sat at the dining table at home. My mom put a bowl of soup in front of me. "You work too much," she said. "This job is not stable." I held my spoon. "I like this job," I said. She shook her head. "You should think about your future." I put the spoon down. "This is my future," I said. Her voice became louder. "You always say that, but what if you lose this job?" I felt heat in my face. "Then I will find another one," I said. "That is not easy," she said. "You are not a child anymore." I stood up. "I know that," I said. The chair made a loud sound on the floor. The room became quiet. She looked at me. I looked away. "I just worry about you," she said, more softly. But I did not answer. I took my bag. I left the house. That day, I did not say goodbye. After that, we talked less. Sometimes she sent messages, short ones. "Did you eat? Are you busy?" And I always replied with short answers. "Yes." "Busy." Now I looked at her new message again. "I can cook your favorite food." I knew what she meant. Tomato egg soup, sweet and warm, just like before. I closed my phone. I put it on the table. Outside, the wind moved the flowers again. More petals fell. People stopped to take photos. They laughed. They called their friends. I watched them for a long time. My phone stayed quiet. No new messages. I picked it up again. I opened the chat. The last message was still there. "I can cook your favorite food." My finger moved slowly on the screen. I typed, "I am busy this weekend." This time I sent it. The message showed delivered. I stared at the screen. A few seconds later she replied. "Okay," just one word. I put my phone down. I looked out the window again. The flowers were still there, soft, bright, alive. But inside me something felt far away. I did not understand it. Or maybe I did not want to understand it. The message stayed on my screen. Okay. Just one word. No more. I locked my phone. But I could not focus on my work. The screen in front of me was bright. Numbers and emails filled the page. But my mind was not there. It went back to that day. That day was not about dinner. It was not just about a job. It was a rainy day. The sky was dark. The air felt heavy. I was at the office. My phone rang many times. I did not pick up. I was in a meeting. My manager was talking. Everyone was quiet. My phone kept shaking on the table. Finally, I looked down. It was my neighbor. I felt something was wrong. "I need to take this," I said. I walked out of the room. My heart started to beat fast. "Hello." "Your mum is not feeling well," the neighbor said. "She feels dizzy, We are going to the hospital. My hand became cold. I will come now, I said. I grabbed my bag. I ran out of the office. Rain hit my face. The road was wet and busy. I called a taxi, but no car stopped. I waited. 5 minutes. 10 minutes. My phone rang again. It was my mom. I am okay, she said. Do not worry. Her voice was weak. I am coming, I said. No need, she said. You have work. I said I am coming, I said. She went quiet. Then she said softly, You always say that. The line cut. I stood in the rain. My clothes were wet. Finally, a taxi stopped. I got in. Hospital, please, I said. The car moved slowly. Traffic was heavy. I looked at the time again and again. When I arrived, I ran inside. The hospital was bright and cold. The smell was strong. I saw my neighbor. She waved at me. Your mum is inside, she said. I nodded. I walked fast to the room. My mum was on the bed. Her eyes were closed. Her face looked pale. A nurse stood next to her. What happened? I asked. Low blood pressure, the nurse said. She needs rest. I stood there. I did not move. After a while, my mum opened her eyes. She saw me. You came, she said. I let out a breath. Yes, I said. She gave a small smile. You should be at work, she said. I felt something rise in my chest. I left work, I said. You called me. I told you not to come, she said. I wanted to come, I said. She looked at me quietly. Then she said, You cannot always leave work like this. I froze. What? I said. You need to think about your job, she said. You cannot lose it. I stared at her. You are in the hospital, I said, and you talk about my job. I am fine, she said, but your future is important. My hands became tight. I was worried about you, I said. I know, she said, but worry cannot fix your life. The words hit me hard. I am trying, I said. I work hard every day. But this job is not stable, she said again. That word again, not stable. I stepped back. You never listen, I said. I am listening, she said. I just do not agree. The room felt small. I do not need this right now, I said. She looked at me. Her eyes were tired. I say this because I care, she said. I shook my head. It does not feel like care, I said. Silence filled the room. The machine next to her made a soft sound. Beep, beep, beep. I looked away. I need some air, I said. I walked out. I did not go back in that day. Later, I sent a message. Rest well. She replied, Okay. After that, things changed. Our calls became shorter. Our messages became fewer. And now, I sat in my office again. The sun was shining outside. Flowers moved in the wind. But that day stayed in my mind. Clear, cold, unfinished. I picked up my phone. Her last message was still there. I can cook your favorite food. I looked at it for a long time. Then I locked the screen again. I told myself, it is just a small thing. But deep down, I knew it was not. Saturday came. I did not go home. I woke up late. The room was quiet. Light came in through the window. My phone was on the table. No new messages. I stayed in bed for a while. I looked at the ceiling. Then my phone rang. It was Anna. Hey, she said, I'm going to see the flowers today. Do you want to come? I wanted to say no. The word was already in my mouth, but I stopped. I looked outside. The sky was clear. Okay, I said. Great, she said. I will send you the location. An hour later, I was on the train. People stood close to each other. Some held flowers in their hands. Some talked and laughed. I stood near the door. I held my phone. I opened my mum's chat. Then I closed it again. The train stopped. I walked out with the crowd. The park was full of people. Trees stood in long lines. Each tree was covered with flowers. Pink and white filled the air. Petals fell slowly. They landed on the ground, on hair, on shoulders. "It is beautiful, right?" Anna said. I nodded. "Yes, very beautiful." We walked under the trees. People took photos everywhere. A child ran past me. He laughed loudly. "Mom, look!" he shouted. I turned my head. I saw a woman and her daughter. They stood under a tree. The mother held her phone. "Stand there," she said. "More to the left. Yes, there." The girl smiled. The wind moved her hair. "Smile," the mother said again. Click. They looked at the photo together. They laughed. "Take one more," the girl said. Okay, the mother said. They moved closer, shoulder to shoulder. Click. I stood still. I watched them. Something moved inside me. That scene felt familiar, very familiar. I closed my eyes for a second, and I saw another place, a smaller park, older trees, softer light. I was younger. I stood under a tree. "Do not move," my mum said. She held a small camera. "I am not moving," I said. "You are moving," she said. "Stand still." I tried to stand straight, but I started to laugh. "Why are you laughing?" she asked. "I do not know," I said. She laughed too. "Okay, just smile," she said. Click. I ran to her. "Let me see," I said. She showed me the photo. "That is me?" I asked. "Yes," she said. "That is you." I looked at the photo. I looked happy. "Take another one," I said. She nodded. "Okay, one more." Back to the present. A petal landed on my hand. I opened my eyes. The mother and daughter were still there. Still smiling, still close. Anna touched my arm. "Do you want me to take a photo for you?" she asked. I shook my head. "No, it's okay." "Come on," she said. "It is a nice place." I hesitated. Then I gave her my phone. "Just one," I said. I stood under a tree, flowers above me, people around me. "Ready?" Anna said. I nodded. "Smile," she said. I tried, but it felt different. The smile came slowly. It felt a little heavy. Click. I walked back to her. She showed me the photo. "It looks good," she said. I looked at it. The flowers were bright. The light was soft. But my eyes, they looked a little far away. I did not say anything. We kept walking. People passed by us. Some held hands. Some leaned on each other. I listened to their voices. Soft, warm, close. I put my hands in my pockets. My phone was there. I took it out. I opened the chat again. "I can cook your favorite food." The words felt different now. Not heavy, not annoying, just quiet. I looked up at the trees. The flowers were the same, but something inside me was not the same anymore. I stood there for a long time. Anna walked ahead. She did not notice I stopped. I stayed under the tree. The wind moved the branches. More petals fell. Slowly. Softly. I held my phone in my hand. I did not type, but this time I did not want to close it either. I stood under the tree. The wind moved the flowers. Petals fell around me. My phone was still in my hand. I looked at the screen again. "I can cook your favorite food." I read it one more time. Then my phone buzzed. A new message. It was from my mum. I froze for a second. I opened it slowly. It was a photo. No words, just a photo. I tapped on it. The picture became big. It was a park. I knew that place. The old path, the long bench, the tree near the lake. Flowers covered the branches, soft pink, just like here. The light in the photo was warm. It looked like late afternoon. I stared at it. My chest felt tight. Then another message came. "I am here today." I did not move. My fingers stayed still. A few seconds later, one more message came. "I remember you like this place." I sat down on a bench near me. The world around me became quiet. People still walked. Children still laughed. Cameras still clicked. but the sounds felt far away. I looked at the photo again. I could almost see her there, sitting on the bench, looking at the trees, waiting, not saying much, just waiting. I remembered something again. Not a big thing, just a small day. I was tired after school. I did not want to go out. But she said, "Let's take a short walk." I followed her. We went to that park. We sat on that bench. We did not talk much. She gave me a bottle of water. "Drink," she said. I drank. The wind was soft. The flowers moved above us. After a while, I felt better. "Do you feel okay now?" she asked. I nodded. "Yes." She smiled. "Good," she said. "Back to now." I looked at the photo again. The same place, the same bench. But I was not there. She was there, alone, waiting in a place we used to share. My eyes stayed on the screen. I thought about that day in the hospital. Her words, my words. They were still sharp, still clear. She did not say sorry. I did not say sorry. We both walked away, and we stayed there, far from each other. I took a slow breath. Maybe she did not understand my job. Maybe she said the wrong things. But she still remembered this place. She still remembered what I liked. She still came here, and she still told me. My hand moved a little. I typed, "Are you alone?" I looked at the words. Then I pressed send. The message went out. I waited. The wind moved again. Petals touched my shoes. A few seconds later, her reply came. "Yes." Just one word. Simple. The same as before. But this time it felt different. I stood up. Anna was still somewhere in the park. I could not see her. I typed to her, "I need to go." She replied quickly, "Everything okay?" I looked at the trees one more time. "Yes," I typed, "everything is okay." I put my phone in my bag. I walked toward the exit. My steps were slow at first, then a little faster, then faster again. I did not think too much. I did not plan anything. I just knew one thing. I did not want her to sit there alone. Not today. Not in the place we both remembered. I took out my phone again. I opened the ticket app. My fingers moved quickly this time. No pause, no stop. After a few seconds, the ticket was booked. I looked at the screen. Time, seat, train number, all clear. I held the phone tightly. Then I opened her chat again. I typed slowly this time. "I am coming home." I read the sentence once. Then I sent it. The screen stayed quiet for a moment. Then, "Typing." Her reply came. "Okay." Still simple, still short, but I knew. This time it was not the same okay. I stepped out of the park. The flowers stayed behind me. But something inside me moved forward. The train moved fast. Trees passed by the window, fields, roads, small houses. I sat by the window. My bag was next to me. My phone was in my hand. No new messages. I looked outside. The sky was soft and blue. I closed my eyes for a moment. Then I opened them again. Time felt slow, but also fast. After a while, the train stopped. I stood up. I walked out with the crowd. The air felt different, cooler, quieter, familiar. I walked out of the station. The road was the same. The small shop was still there. The old sign had not changed. I walked past it, step by step. My heart beat a little faster. I knew where to go. I did not need a map. The park was not far. When I reached the gate, I stopped. I took a small breath. Then I walked in. The trees stood in long lines. Flowers covered the branches. The same as the photo. The same as before. People were still there, but fewer now. The light was softer. Late afternoon. I walked along the path, slowly. My eyes moved from tree to tree. Then I saw the bench, the one in the photo, and I saw her. She sat there quietly. Her hands rested on her lap. She looked at the flowers. She did not move. For a moment I did not move either. I just stood there, looking at her. She looked smaller than I remembered, a little thinner, a little older. The wind moved her hair. A few petals landed on her shoulder. I took a step forward, then another. My shoes made a soft sound on the ground. She turned her head. She saw me. Her eyes opened a little wider. She stood up. For a second, we just looked at each other. No words, no movement. Then she said, "You are back." Her voice was soft. I nodded. Yes. I walked closer. "I am back." We stood there, not too far, not too close. The wind passed between us. She looked at me carefully. "Did you eat?" she asked. The same question, just like before. I felt something warm in my chest. "Not yet," I said. She nodded. "I can cook," she said. I smiled a little. "Okay," I said. We did not talk about the hospital. We did not talk about the fight. Not today. We sat down on the bench, side by side. The same bench, the same place. She looked at the trees. I looked at the ground. Then I looked up. The flowers moved above us. Petals fell slowly. One landed on her hand. She looked at it. Then she brushed it away gently. I watched her hand. Then I spoke. "I saw your photo," I said. She nodded. "I thought you might come," she said. Her voice was quiet. Not sure, not strong, just gentle. I looked at her. "I almost didn't," I said. She did not ask why. She just nodded again. "That's okay," she said. We sat there in silence, but the silence was not heavy. It was soft, like the wind, like the flowers. After a while, she stood up. "Let's go home," she said. I stood up too. "Okay," I said. We walked side by side, slow steps, same direction. The sun moved lower. Light fell through the trees. Long shadows followed us. At the gate, I turned back for a moment. The flowers were still there, bright, soft, alive. They would come again next year. Just like always. I looked forward again. My mom walked next to me. Close, real. This time I came home too.